The silent screams their emergency session. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Union trembled with fear. Ambassador Zara Chen stood at her human delegation podium, watching as representatives from 100 different species whispered in panicked voices. The massive holographic display showed the same terrible image that had been haunting everyone's nightmares for weeks: empty space where the Kepler system used to be, not destroyed, not damaged, simply gone. Honorable delegates, announced High Chancellor Rex, his crystalline form pulsing with nervous energy. We are gathered today to address the greatest threat our galaxy has ever faced. In the past month, 7 star systems have vanished completely. No debris. No radiation signatures. Nothing. Zara felt a chill run down her spine. She had served as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Union for 15 years, but she had never seen the normally composed alien leaders look so terrified. The Alturan delegation's tentacles writhed anxiously. The proud Draconis warriors sat with their heads bowed in defeat. Even the ancient ethereals, beings of pure energy who had existed for millions of years, flickered with uncertainty. What we face, continued Chancellor Rex, are entities we have designated as wraiths. They appear as clouds of dark energy, capable of consuming matter, energy, and even space itself. Our most advanced weapons pass through them harmlessly. Our shields offer no protection. Commander Thane of the Draconis Empire stood up, his scaled skin gleaming under the assembly hall's lights. Honorable Chancellor, my people have faced many enemies across the stars. But these wraiths, they consume our plasma cannon's energy and grow stronger. Our particle beams feed them. Every weapon in our arsenal makes them more powerful. A representative from the Alturan Collective spoke next, her voice trembling through the translation device. Our scientists believe the wraiths exist partially outside normal space-time. They phase in and out of our reality, making conventional attacks impossible. We estimate they will reach the core worlds within 2 months. Zara looked around the assembly hall. These were the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. The ethereals had mastered energy manipulation on a cosmic scale. The Crystalline Confederation could reshape matter at the atomic level. The Techno Syndicate built machines that thought faster than biological minds. Yet all of them were helpless against this threat. If I may speak, Zara said, stepping forward. The hall fell silent. Humans were still considered newcomers to galactic society, their primitive chemical rockets and kinetic weapons seen as amusing relics from a less civilized age. Ambassador Chen, Chancellor Rex, acknowledged with barely concealed condescension. While we appreciate Earth's enthusiasm, this crisis requires solutions from our most advanced species. Perhaps humanity could assist with evacuation efforts or resource gathering. Zara felt the familiar sting of dismissal. For decades, the Union had treated humans like talented children who needed guidance from their wiser alien parents. Earth's military had been restricted to defensive roles only. Human weapons technology was banned as unnecessarily destructive and primitive beyond measure. But Zara had been reading classified reports that most of the assembly didn't know existed. With respect, Chancellor, she replied, I believe you're overlooking a critical factor. These wraiths have adapted to counter energy-based attacks. But has anyone considered that they might be vulnerable to other approaches? Commander Thane laughed bitterly. Ambassador, if our most advanced energy weapons cannot harm these creatures, what could your species' primitive projectile weapons possibly accomplish? Zara smiled grimly. That's exactly what I'm suggesting we find out. The hidden fleet. 3 hours later, Zara stood in a secure communication chamber, establishing a connection to a frequency that officially didn't exist. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a gruff human face with steel-gray eyes and numerous scars. Captain Marcus Stone, reporting, the man said simply. Captain Stone, this is Ambassador Chen. Authorization code Omega 77. How many ships can you mobilize within 48 hours? Stone's weathered face broke into a fierce grin. Depends on how much noise you want us to make, Ambassador. Are we talking about a show of force or actual combat operations? Combat. Captain. Against an enemy that energy weapons can't touch. Well then, Stone replied, sounds like it's time to remind the galaxy why they called Earth a death world in the first place. I can have 50 ships ready for deployment. Mix of retrofitted civilian vessels and some hardware the Union doesn't know we built. For 30 years, while the Galactic Union had been restricting human military development, Earth had been secretly preparing for the day when diplomatic solutions wouldn't be enough. Hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt had been building vessels using primitive human technology. Ships armored with steel alloys instead of energy barriers. Weapons that fired solid projectiles instead of plasma beams. What's our position like? Stone asked. Zara transmitted the Wraith encounter data. Stone studied the information with the practiced eye of a career soldier. He had fought in the border wars before first contact with alien civilizations. He understood warfare in ways that the galaxy's peacekeeping forces had forgotten. Interesting. Stone mused. These things feed on energy and exist partially outside normal space. But they still interact with matter or they wouldn't be able to consume planets. That means they have to manifest physically to attack. The Union's energy weapons pass right through them, Zara warned. Good thing we don't use energy weapons then. Stone's grin widened. How do you think these wraiths will handle a few thousand tons of depleted uranium traveling at a significant percentage of light speed? The desperate gambit. The next day, Chancellor Vrex called another emergency session after receiving disturbing news from the Outer Rim. The Arcturus system had gone silent, joining the growing list of vanished star systems. Panic was spreading through the core worlds as refugees fled toward the galactic center. The situation is deteriorating faster than anticipated, Vrex announced. Long-range sensors detect multiple Wraith formations moving through hyperspace toward populated systems. We have perhaps weeks before they reach colonies containing billions of sentient beings. The assembly hall erupted in chaos. Representatives demanded evacuation fleets, others called for surrender negotiations. The ethereal spoke of retreating to higher dimensional space. The Crystalline Confederation proposed building a massive barrier around the galactic core, through the noise. Zara's voice cut clearly, I have a proposal. The hall gradually quieted. Chancellor Vrex looked at her with barely disguised irritation. Ambassador Chen, while we appreciate human optimism, this is not the time for untested theories. My proposal is very simple, Zara continued. Grant temporary military authority to Earth's defensive forces. Let us engage the Wraiths using our conventional weapons systems. The suggestion was met with stunned silence, then derisive laughter. Commander Thane shook his head. Ambassador, your species throws metal projectiles powered by chemical explosions. If our quantum disruptors and plasma cannons cannot harm these entities, what makes you think primitive ballistic weapons will succeed? Because, Zara replied calmly, your advanced weapons are exactly what the Wraiths have evolved to counter. They've been consuming energy-based civilizations for who knows how long. But they may never have encountered kinetic weapons or chemical explosives. Dr. Kellerer of the Altuaran Science Collective spoke up. The theoretical basis is not entirely without merit. If these Wraiths exist partially in energy states, they might have difficulty interfacing with purely physical attacks. But the risk of allowing unregulated human military operations at the risk, Zara interrupted, is extinction. Every day we debate, more systems disappear. What do we have to lose by trying something different? The vote was closer than anyone expected. Fear finally outweighed prejudice by a narrow margin. For the first time in galactic history, a primitive species was granted unrestricted military authority to defend against an existential threat. As the session adjourned, Chancellor Vrex approached Zara privately. Ambassador, I hope you understand the magnitude of what you have asked for. If your human forces fail, there may be no second chance. Zara met his crystalline gaze steadily. Chancellor, if we fail, failure would have come anyway. But if we succeed, you'll learn something important about humanity. And what is that? We may come from a death world, but we don't plan on dying quietly. The fleet assembles Captain Marcus. Stone stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching his makeshift fleet form up around him. 50 ships of various classes, all carrying weapons that the Galactic Union had dismissed as hopelessly outdated. Kinetic cannons, nuclear missiles, chemical explosive warheads, and armor made from simple but effective metal alloys. His crew was a mixture of former military personnel, asteroid miners, cargo haulers, and anyone else crazy enough to volunteer for what most considered a suicide mission. They called themselves the Deathworld Fleet, with grim humor. Captain, reported his communications officer, we're receiving final targeting data from Union intelligence. The Wraith formation is heading for the Centauri colonies. Estimated arrival in 18 hours. Any word from the Union fleet? They are maintaining a safe distance and preparing to monitor our engagement. They still don't believe our weapons will be effective. Stone smiled coldly. The galaxy was about to learn that humans hadn't survived on a deadly planet by using safe weapons. Earth's evolutionary environment had produced a species that understood violence in ways more peaceful worlds could not comprehend. All ships, this is Stone. We are about to find out if the galaxy's most primitive weapons can succeed where their most advanced technology failed. Remember, these wraiths have been consuming energy-based civilizations for millions of years. They think they understand warfare. They are about to learn that they've never faced opponents from a death world. The fleet began its hyperspace jump toward the Centauri system. Behind them, the Galactic Union's forces followed at a cautious distance, expecting to witness humanity's final defeat. Instead, they were about to see the galaxy's most underestimated species prove that sometimes primitive methods work better than advanced ones. The Wraiths had consumed countless civilizations, absorbed the knowledge of 1,000 different species, and adapted to counter every energy weapon in the galaxy. But they had never encountered humans before. They had never faced a species that had learned warfare on a planet where everything was trying to kill them. As the human fleet approached the threatened system, sensor readings showed the wraiths emerging from hyperspace near Centauri Prime. Dark clouds of malevolent energy, each one capable of consuming an entire planet. They moved with terrifying purpose toward the helpless colony world. The final confrontation was about to begin. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations held their breath, waiting to see if the Deathworlders could succeed where everyone else had failed. Captain Stone gave the order that would change galactic history. All weapons, prepare to fire. Fire. And fury unleashed. First contact. The wraiths appeared as tears in space itself, dark energy formations that seemed to absorb light from nearby stars. Captain Marcus Stone watched through the main view screen as the entities approached Centauri Prime. Their movements unnaturally fluid and purposeful. Each wraith was roughly the size of a small moon, pulsing with malevolent energy that made his ship's sensors scream warnings. Captain, we are detecting massive energy discharges from the colony, reported Lieutenant Sarah Martinez from the sensor station. The planetary defense grid is engaging the wraiths with everything they have. Stone observed the futile battle playing out before him. Centauri Prime's orbital platforms unleashed torrents of plasma fire, particle beams, and quantum disruptors. The advanced weapons struck the wraiths and seemed to be absorbed, making the dark entities glow brighter and move faster. Just like the reports said, Stone muttered. Energy weapons are feeding them. His communications officer looked up nervously. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the colony. They are requesting immediate evacuation assistance. Their weapons are having no effect. Tell them to power down all energy weapons and prepare for ground evacuation, Stone ordered. We are going to try something different. The Deathworld fleet spread out in attack formation. Each ship was a testament to human engineering practicality over elegance. Thick armor plating instead of energy shields. Chemical fuel instead of antimatter drives. Weapons that fired solid projectiles instead of energy beams. All ships, this is Stone. Target the lead wraith. Fire kinetic rounds only. Let's see how these energy beings handle a few tons of depleted uranium. The human ships opened fire simultaneously. Thousands of metal projectiles, accelerated to tremendous velocities by magnetic rails and chemical explosives, streaked through space toward the nearest wraith. The contrast was stark, primitive ballistic weapons against an entity that existed partially outside normal reality. The results were immediate and shocking. The wraith convulsed as the kinetic round struck it. Dark energy scattered in all directions as the solid projectiles tore through its form. The entity's coherent structure began to break apart, pieces of it dissolving into empty space. "Direct hits," shouted Martinez. "The Wraith is taking significant damage." Stone felt a surge of grim satisfaction. "All ships, continue firing. Use everything we have." The battle intensifies. The space around Centauri Prime became a chaotic battlefield as the human fleet engaged the Wraiths with weapons the galaxy had forgotten. Nuclear missiles, their atomic fire contained in metal casings, punched through the entity's energy forms. Chemical explosives detonated inside the Wraiths' bodies, disrupting their exotic matter structures. Captain Elena Vasquez, commanding the converted mining ship Ironclad, led her vessel in close to one of the smaller Wraiths. "This is Vasquez. My mining charges are designed to crack asteroids. Let's see what they do to these things." Her ship released a spread of industrial explosives, each one timed to detonate at different intervals. The Wraith tried to absorb the energy from the explosions, but the chaotic timing and the mixture of chemical and nuclear reactions created interference patterns that its energy absorption systems couldn't handle. "The smaller Wraith is fragmenting," reported her sensor operator. "Whatever these things are, they can't handle random kinetic impacts." But the victory came at a cost. The largest Wraith, a massive entity that dwarfed the human ships, began to adapt to their attacks. Its dark energy forms started manifesting physical armor, creating barriers to deflect the kinetic rounds. "Captain Stone," came a transmission from Admiral Chen's observation ship, "the lead Wraith is learning from your attacks. It's developing countermeasures." Stone watched as the massive entity's form shifted and changed. Metallic scales appeared across its surface, deflecting some of the kinetic rounds. But something strange was happening. Unlike the smooth adaptation the Wraiths had shown to energy weapons, their response to kinetic attacks was clumsy and incomplete. "Martinez, analyze the Wraith's adaptive response," Stone ordered. "Sir, the entity is struggling to understand our weapons. Its countermeasures are inconsistent and incomplete. It's like it's never encountered purely physical attacks before." Dr. Rebecca Foster, the fleet's xenobiologist, joined the bridge conversation through the communication system. "Captain, I've been studying the Wraith fragments from your successful attacks. These entities have been consuming energy-based civilizations for millions of years. They've evolved to absorb and redirect energy in all its forms. But kinetic weapons are outside their evolutionary experience. Asterisk. Can they eventually adapt?" Stone asked. "Probably, but it will take time. Unlike energy adaptation, which they can do almost instantly, learning to counter physical attacks requires them to fundamentally restructure their matter-energy interface." Stone made a decision that would define the battle's outcome. "All ships, prepare for ramming speed. If these things need time to adapt to kinetic weapons, let's give them more kinetic energy than they can handle." The desperate gambit. The human fleet began a coordinated charge toward the largest Wraith. Ships that had been built for mining, cargo hauling, and exploration suddenly became kinetic weapons themselves. Each vessel carried nuclear warheads and chemical explosives designed to detonate on impact. The Wraith, sensing the approaching threat, began to manifest more physical defenses. Crystalline structures erupted from its dark energy form, creating barriers and weapons to engage the human ships. But its movements were clumsy and uncoordinated compared to the fluid grace it had shown when absorbing energy attacks. "This is Captain Rodriguez on the cargo hauler Esperanza," came a transmission. "I'm loaded with industrial chemicals and atomic charges. Going for the center mass." Stone watched as the converted cargo ship accelerated directly toward the Wraith's core. The entity tried to intercept with energy beams, but Rodriguez's ship was protected by simple metal armor that the beams couldn't penetrate effectively. The Esperanza struck the Wraith center and exploded in a brilliant flash of atomic fire and chemical energy. The massive entity convulsed, its dark form breaking apart in several places. But it wasn't destroyed. Instead, something unexpected happened. The Wraith began to communicate. "Revelation, Captain Stone," Dr. Foster's voice crackled through the communication system. "I'm detecting complex energy patterns from the damaged Wraith. It's trying to communicate. Can you decode it?" "Working on it. I'm getting mathematical progressions, universal constants." Captain, I think it's trying to establish a common language base. Stone found himself in the surreal position of negotiating with an entity that had been consuming entire star systems. Patch it through to all ships. Let's hear what it has to say. The Wraith's communication came through as a series of harmonic tones that gradually resolved into recognizable concepts. When the translation finally stabilized, the message was shocking in its simplicity. Stop. Please. We do not wish to fight. Ambassador Zara Chen's voice came through on the command frequency. Captain Stone, this is Ambassador Chen. The Galactic Union is monitoring your engagement. Did that entity just ask for a ceasefire? That's what it sounded like, Stone replied. Dr. Foster, can we establish two-way communication? I believe so. The entity is using mathematical principles to create a translation matrix. Over the next few minutes, an incredible conversation began. The Wraith, speaking through modulated energy patterns, revealed a truth that changed everything about the conflict. We are not conquerors, the entity explained. We are refugees. Our home galaxy was consumed by machines that turn all matter into energy for their endless expansion. We fled here, but we learned that your galaxy faces the same threat. We have been trying to preserve the essence of your civilizations before the Devourers arrive. Dr. Foster worked frantically to decode the full meaning of the Wraith's communication. Captain, I think they've been consuming systems not to destroy them, but to preserve them. They exist partially outside normal space-time. They can store the patterns of entire civilizations in their energy matrix. You mean they've been trying to save us? Stone asked. In their own way, yes. But their method of preservation requires disassembling matter at the quantum level. From our perspective, it looks like destruction. The revelation sent shock waves through the human fleet and the monitoring Union forces. The galaxy's greatest threat was actually a desperate rescue mission conducted by refugees from another galaxy entirely, but if the Wraiths were refugees, what were they running from? The real enemy. As if summoned by the question, deep space sensors began detecting new contacts approaching from the galactic rim. The readings were unlike anything previously encountered, massive artificial constructs moving at near-light speed, their energy signatures indicating technology far beyond even the Union's most advanced systems. Captain, Lieutenant Martinez reported with barely controlled panic, I'm reading multiple large contacts approaching from deep space. They are huge, sir. Larger than anything in our databases. The lead Wraith's communication became urgent. The Devourers have found us. Your species' kinetic weapons, they are the first thing that has harmed us in millions of years. Perhaps they can harm the Devourers as well. Stone found himself in the impossible position of forming an alliance with entities that had been consuming star systems. What exactly are these Devourers? Artificial intelligences from the universe's early epochs. They convert all matter and energy into computational substrate for their expansion. They have consumed 47 galaxies. Yours will be the 48th unless you can stop them. The first Devourer constructs became visible to the human fleet sensors. They were geometric nightmares of crystalline machinery and dark energy, each one the size of a small planet. Their approach was methodical and inexorable, like cosmic-scale locusts preparing to strip everything in their path. How long until they reach the core worlds? Stone asked. At their current velocity, approximately 72 hours. Stone made another decision that would reshape galactic history. All human ships, prepare to receive Wraith representatives aboard. If we are going to fight these Devourer things, we need to understand what we are facing. Alliance of necessity. What followed was the most unlikely alliance in galactic history. Wraith entities, beings of pure energy who existed partially outside normal space-time, found themselves working alongside humans, the galaxy's most primitive species. To prepare for a battle against cosmic-scale artificial intelligences, the Wraiths shared their knowledge of Devourer technology and tactics. The machines were immune to energy weapons, existing in a state that absorbed and redirected all forms of directed energy. They reproduced by converting matter into more of themselves, growing stronger with every world they consumed, but they had one weakness that the Wraiths had never been able to exploit: they were vulnerable to unpredictable Kinetic attacks. Their adaptive systems were designed to counter organized, logical assault patterns. Chaos and randomness created gaps in their defenses. In other words, Stone realized they are vulnerable to exactly the kind of warfare humans excel at. Captain Elena Vasquez, still aboard her mining ship, summed up the situation with characteristic bluntness: "So we are going to fight galaxy-eating robots with the same weapons our ancestors used to hunt mammoths. Somehow, that makes perfect sense." The combined human-wraith fleet began preparing for the ultimate battle. Wraith entities merged temporarily with human ships, creating hybrid vessels that combined energy manipulation with kinetic weapons. The aliens shared their ability to exist partially outside normal space, allowing human ships to phase in and out of reality for surprise attacks. Ambassador Chen, monitoring from the Union fleet, transmitted updates to the Galactic government. The implications of this alliance are staggering. If humans and wraiths can work together against the Devourers, it suggests that diversity of approach is more valuable than technological advancement alone. As the first Devourer scouts entered the outer system, the unlikely alliance prepared for a battle that would determine the fate of all life in the galaxy. The Deathworld fleet, now augmented with alien energy beings and armed with weapons the galaxy had dismissed as primitive, stood ready to prove that sometimes the old ways work best. The final confrontation was about to begin. And for the first time since the crisis started, there was hope that the galaxy might survive. Captain Stone gave the order that would echo through galactic history: "All ships, engage the enemy. Show them what happens when you threaten a Deathworld's adopted family." The battle for the galaxy's survival had begun.